Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone's having a wonderful start to their 4th of July. Today is another chapter in my Diamond Star story series. This could be chapter 8. Can't believe we're already up to 8 episodes of this. And as you know, I'm working on this entire set, so I'll have a lot more to come before we're actually done with doing the Diamond Stars. I hope people are enjoying these videos. When I make these videos, I do notice they're not my most watched videos, but they're ones I probably put maybe the most time and energy into, just researching the players, learning about the players, and deciding what I want to be able to talk about, especially for the guys that are lesser known. I like doing this exercise, and I hope people are out there that actually do enjoy kind of listening to this part of it and watching it and looking at the cards themselves. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think there's real value in the 1930s. Yes, you're buying in a little bit higher, sure, to be able to get those cards, but there's a lot of great players you can get for prices that are going to be less than Mickey Mantle cards. So it's just something to kind of think about as you kind of look back into it. If you really want to get into baseball from the 1920s and 30s, the Diamond Star set is littered with stars. All right, so let's get into our picture or player for this week or this month. We actually had pulled out the second card I actually picked up for this set. So at first I had the Ted Lyons, which I did last month, which was the very first card I got. And then I had a break of about a year before I picked up another card from this set, even though I was very interested in maybe acquiring more. And I was at a card show Labor Day weekend, I believe in 2021. People were still masking, I think, at that point when they were going to the card shows. It might have even been 2020. I can't recall if it was that year or the following. And I was at a dealer, and I saw two cards that I wanted to be able to kind of possibly pick up, and I was able to make a deal with the same dealer to be able to get the 1954 Bowman Bob Feller, an SGC3, but then I also was able to acquire the meal ticket, Carl Hubbell. I was able to get a Carl Hubbell Diamond Stars card. This was from 1935, so not the 34 version. This is the 1935 version of the card in a PSA 1.5. The reason it was a 1.5 is there is an indentation in the card, and there's actually paper loss up here in the corner. If you looked really closely at it, you can definitely see it. Both those things kind of show up on the camera. But other than that, the registration's really good on the card. The centering's good. The color, I think, it really stands out, and it's quite phenomenal as you kind of look at the card itself. And in the back is clean as can be, maybe just a little dirty from years of wear. But other than that, it's very legible, and you can read the entirety of the card. So as you can see, he's like leaning against the fence, probably a fence, maybe leading into the bullpen, who knows what picture they used to be able to create this beautiful painting that we have of this player. But as you can see, he's got his little hat tilted here, which I think always kind of looked cool. We have the skyline in the background, probably of like New York or some version of New York at that point. And then the Giants colors there, kind of just standing out for all to see. This, I think, was before they added the blue into the uniforms at this point. So it was just orange and white was the primary colors for the home jerseys at that point. And as I mentioned, this was a 1935 version. As you can kind of see, it's got his 1934 stats on the back. He was known as the meal ticket because you could count on him. You knew he was going to come home with the goods. He was going to deliver upon a win. Carl Hubbell didn't necessarily start out with greatness, as so many players don't, but he had to really work his way into the majors. He started as one of 7 kids, and he actually, after graduating high school, he went to work for an oil company and was pitching for the pitching for the company team at that point when he was discovered by the minor league team, and was signed into the minor league system in Oklahoma, and eventually was recruited and signed by the Detroit Tigers. And when his first spring training, I think this was also when Ty Cobb was heavily involved with recruiting and also player development at that point, may have even been managing the team at this point. The organization had decided, and Ty Cobb was probably part of that decision too, that they didn't want to have a pitcher throw a screwball, which, as we know, Carl Hubbell's famous pitch was the screwball, because they thought it was too unpredictable and it was kind of dangerous. Dangerous in that pitchers or batters at this point didn't wear helmets. They didn't have that gear in the 1930s. So, obviously an errant pitch hit in the right place in the head potentially could end somebody's career and possibly even their life. So that was their concern. So they didn't want to teach any of their pitchers to throw the screwball. But that's what actually got the attention of the major leagues, was his ability to be able to throw the screwball effectively. As you know, Carl Hubbell was a left-hander, threw the screwball. So anyway, he kind of tried to make it in the Tigers organization, was sent away to spring training, and was pitching in Toronto, the International League, when he eventually kind of forced his release because he was not pitching well, but he knew he had the ability to pitch much better if they would just allow him to throw the screwball. So he was very adamant that he wanted to be able to throw the screwball, or he didn't want to be able to pitch at all, and you could find him or another team. You could put him on another team. So eventually this became to the attention of the scouting system of the New York Giants, and their head scout at the time actually went and approached John McGraw about it and said, hey, we got this pitcher that wants to throw the screwball, and Detroit's not very high on the possibility of him doing that, so we really don't know what he might be able to do. And McGraw was able to kind of look back in his time overseeing and managing Christy Mathewson, who threw the screwball at that time. It was called the fadeaway pitch. And he said, well, Mathewson did it very effectively without any arm problems over the course of his career, and had very good control with it, so I'm willing to give him a chance. So that's why the Giants were able to bring him into the organization. And the rest is really Major League Baseball history at that point. So Hubbell played in the major leagues from 1928 to 1943, all with the New York Giants. He was a 2-time MVP as a pitcher. He was a 9-time All-Star, and then we didn't start All-Stars until 1933, so he probably would have been an All-Star more often than that. Won 3 ERA titles. He was also known as either the meal ticket or King Carl, was often known when he pitched on the mound. He won 20 games 5 times in his career. He was also known for setting a record of 24 consecutive wins as a pitcher through 1936 through 1937 at that time. And probably his biggest feat that people still talk about to this day was in the 1934 All-Star game, when he struck out in succession Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin, all of which are actually in the Hall of Fame themselves. That's was kind of his big feat in his career, even though he did win a World Series as a pitcher in 1933 as well. And he was the very first National League ball player to have his number retired, number 11, I believe it was, by the New York Giants. And after his career, he was actually let go by the Giants in 1943 because he was really struggling to pitch at that point. But they immediately approached him about trying to stay in the ball club and become the director of player development, which he held for many, many years at the point after his retirement as a Major League Baseball pitcher. He was married, had 2 children. He had a son that briefly actually had a Major League career before he went on to enlist and become a Marine. He died, unfortunately, pretty tragically. He did live a long life, fortunately, so it wasn't necessarily all that premature. So at the age of 85, he actually had a car accident, which happened after the fact. He had a stroke while he was driving the car, and obviously he lost control of the car, and that's when he passed away in 1988. So that's Carl Hubbell. That is his history there. It's one of the more famous cards from this set because he was probably one of the most famous pitchers at the time. Probably there with Lefty Grove is probably the other one that kind of stands out to me as the big pitchers of that era. Just really kind of happy to have this as part of my Diamond Stars set that I'm slowly building. I got 2 more delivered just this morning here, because I'm actually shooting this on the day before the 4th of July. I'll be talking about those in a future mail day, and I look forward to continuing to make these videos. Please feel free to kind of add your thoughts in the comments if you like watching these things, if there's anything I can do to maybe enhance the viewing experience of watching these cards. I'm happy to kind of consider it. Other than that, I will see you all soon, and have a wonderful 4th of July.